Good morning. Thank you for being here today. And we certainly appreciate your prayers. We're praying for you as well. We know the Lord's will be done. We're confident of that. We're willing to do what the Lord wants us to do. And I believe you want the Lord's will more than anything. So we're just very happy to be here today. I'm glad my wife is with me. I'd be lost without her, as any married man should say. But I really mean it. So I appreciate her so much. Exodus chapter 3, please. Exodus chapter 3. Children of Israel were in Egypt and had been there for some time. There was a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph that came to power because so many years had passed. And the Egyptians got worried because the children of Israel flourished and they were growing to be so many and so strong that they said, we need to make sure they don't overpower us someday. So they came up with a plan to kill all the baby boys. And the midwives, thankfully, feared God more than Pharaoh. So they didn't kill the little baby boys when they were born. They told Pharaoh, they said, well, these Israelite women, they are so lively, is how it says in the King James Version. They're so quick that they give birth before we even arrive, which actually happened in our family. A little less than 2 years ago, our last child, Vicky, she and her husband were ready to give birth, and come to find out she was lively too. So honestly, the baby came, and about 8 minutes later, the midwife shows up. And so my son-in-law has the distinct honor of having delivered his firstborn son himself. And I can't even imagine doing that. But he had some EMT training, and later our daughter Vicky found out that there was a lady in her church that had been praying, Lord, help Vicky to have a quick delivery just like the Israelite women in Egypt. And her eyes got real big, and she said, man, the Lord answered that prayer, but that's not what we want her to pray anymore. So, anyway, they had their second one 6 weeks ago in a total of 45 minutes of labor. But the midwife was there. So as soon as she got the call, she raced to the house, and she did make it in time. So, Exodus chapter 3, Israel is really having a rough time. They cry out to God. We read, Michael read that today, and God heard them. God acknowledged their prayer. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and His ears are open unto their cry. And this is God's people. And so He heard their prayer, and He decided it's time to bring them out of Egypt. And so He appears to Moses, just as the scriptures say, out of the burning bush. And He says, Moses, Moses. And Moses answered, here I am. We'll find out that there's a task, there's a call, and there's a response, okay? The same is true today. There's a task, there's a call, and there's a response. The task was to get the children of Israel out of Egypt. The task was to bring the children of Israel out of slavery and into the promised land. The call was to Moses. God had the one chosen that He wanted to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. And He calls out to him when he realizes the burning bush trick worked, and he got Moses' attention. Moses said, well, I'm going to take a look at this. And he turned his head, and God said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. That's the right response. That's what each of us should say when the Lord wants our attention. Lord, here I am. What do you want me to do? When He got the Apostle Paul's attention on the road to Damascus, Lord, what would thou have me to do? He wanted his attention for some reason, and Paul knew it, and he just didn't know what that reason was. So he asked him. Moses said, here I am. Let's read here, beginning in verse number 11. God lays out the plan, okay? After He says here, God lays out the entire plan. We're not going to read that whole passage again that Michael just read, but He laid out the plan that the children of Israel had cried out to Him. He heard their prayer, and He's going to deliver them out of Egypt, out of slavery. And Moses, you're the one to do it. He gave him the whole plan. Well, not all the details, but he gave him the plan. The overall plan was there. God doesn't always give us the details. He certainly doesn't always tell us why things happen the way they happen. But we know the overall plan. We know that we're more than conquerors through Him that loved us. We know that in the end we're going to win. We know that His will is best. His ways are best. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are higher than our ways. We know all this. We have a grasp of the overall plan of the sovereignty of God and what He wants done. And He has chosen